Hello everyone, myself Ishaan P, and today I am going to be presenting to you this game Prison Break designed by myself. So let's just get right into it. So I am going to present this PPT and also going to show the project in this video. So in our agenda, that is the index, we have the objective, sprites, costumes used, backgrounds used, explanation of concepts, code sequences along with scratch concepts, and finally the game. So first we have our objective. The aim of this presentation is to guide the user in creating a prison break game in the Scratch platform. During this process, the user will understand the concepts of variables, broadcast, cloning, direction, etc. features of Scratch. The game is about a character trying to break out of prison without getting caught. So here we have all our sprites used. We have our primary gun, our secondary gun, our bed in the cell, weapons inside bed, inventory for weapons, pistol and primary gun costumes for inventory. Continued, we have our jail warden and the bullet. For player sprite, we have three different costumes. One is the default player, the primary gun and the secondary gun. And for the bed sprite, we have two different costumes, the bed in the cell and the weapons inside the bed. Now, the backgrounds used. We have our prison, and then this is cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, walking area for the warden. This is also walking area for the warden, and a door. These are the introductory messages. You have been in jail from 2000. It's too long in jail now, so you're going to break out of it. Prisoners from cell 2 will try to break out of prison. Prisoners from cell 1 and cell 3 are not included in this presentation and are completely optional. So this is the code for the background. This code will explain the situation of the game to the viewers. As mentioned in the previous slide, these are nothing but the introductory messages. So what happens after you click the flag? It switches to you have been in jail from 2000 backdrop. Waits 1 second for the user to read it, switches to the next backdrop, that is too long in jail now, so you are going to break out of here. Waits 1 second, then goes to the next backdrop, that is our prison. And then it just broadcasts a message saying start for other important processes in this project. Now we have our code for bed sprite and player movement. So first of all, we'll create a circle for the player, and then inside the player we will make this code. So whenever it receives start, that is after the introductory messages, it will show and then it will move according to the arrows pressed. We can make custom keys according to the movement, and then we have to make a costume named bed in which the player will discover some weapons. Then we add this code to the bed sprite. That is, when the bed receives start, it will show, and forever, if it's touching the player, it will switch costume to weapons discovered, broadcast guns, and stop the script. Now we have our code for player movement cell restriction. This following code in this picture will restrict the player to his cell until the player discovers the weaponry. So what I am trying to say is the player is restricted to his cell unless he discovers the weapons. Note, if loop, repeat until, and forever are control blocks used. The player gets restricted between these coordinates indicating the cell boundary. So if you are trying to make a custom backdrop, make sure to enter in the correct coordinates. Next, our code for player movement cell open. Remember the broadcast message of guns? Add this code to your project. Add this code to your bed, and this costume is already built, so do not build it again. So when it receives gun, it changes the escape prison switch by 1, which means it's just adding 1. And so in this code, what is happening is this entire code is being repeated until the switch is 1. So meaning if it is 1, it doesn't work anymore. Remember the bed in the previous slide. In the previous slides, make another costume when the player receives the broadcast of guns. Note, any picture of a gun for the costume can be used. It is completely your wish. Now we need to make an inventory. Of course, I have added 2 weapons here. But how do you switch between the weapons if you ask? Well, we have a solution, that is inventory. This game needs an inventory. To add this, go to the paint option in the create a sprite dialog box and paint a red background. Add any color which is bright, or if you have an inventory background, add it. Then add a broadcast message named show inventory and hide inventory respectively in the inventory sprite. As shown here, we can use this code to show and hide. So whenever it receives guns, only this code works whenever it receives guns. So if you press I, it will broadcast inventory to show the inventory, and when you press O, it just broadcasts hide inventory, and when the inventory receives hide inventory, it hides. Costumes for guns in inventory. We need to show the guns in their inventory. So make the respective costumes and show them. So as for here, I have written a brief description about each gun for the inventory so that it can be added in here. Code for selecting the guns. Then add the same code for both the sprites in the respective place. You can add the same code for one of the sprite, duplicate it, change the costume, and remember to change this broadcast message, as if you don't change, a big error will happen and eventually your game is going to work incorrectly. Now since we have made guns, we need like an enemy. So we have our jail warden. The game needs a warden. So we can make a warden sprite as shown below. Then we can add the following part of the code to the warden sprite. So what happens after we receive start? It points in direction 90, that is downwards as shown, and then it shows, meaning it's hidden at the start, and then it gets shown. It goes to a specific location, glides there in case it is positioned somewhere else, turns 180 degrees, meaning if it's pointing up, it turns down, goes down, and then glide 5 seconds to minus 13 y 134. So meaning it just goes up again, goes down, goes up, goes down. And then this is the code when in the starting. When flag click, hide, go to the back layer. Now we have our bullet, because since we have added guns, we need a real bullet. We can add a bullet sprite in the code, which is basically we can add a yellow rectangle or any bullet which you might think looks good for your game. Selection of guns is getting performed and the bullet accordingly. So here, as you can see, this is for the bullet costume. This is for the player costume, and this is for the bullet costume. So what happens when you receive M4 LMG, that is the main gun? It switches costume to M4 LMG, sets weapon to 1. What happens if it receives Renati? It switches costume to Renati, sets the weapon to 2. So what is weapon actually? Weapon is a variable here, and we are using it as a switch. And as I have mentioned before, the Renati is a pistol which fires 3 bullets at once. So we can add create clone of myself, wait 1 second, create clone of myself, wait 1 second, wait 0.1 second, create clone of myself, wait 0.1 seconds. So here we have added the code for the secondary weapon, and here we have added the code for the first weapon. Now code for bullet sound. We have organized, like made the code for the bullet to fire correctly. Now if you want, this is completely optional, you can make custom bullet sounds. So we can add the code to make the right sound during the bullet fire. It is the same. when flag clicked, forever, put an if loop inside the forever loop, then put weapon 1, weapon equal to 1, then put another if loop, and then inside the bar put key space pressed, and then play sound sewing machine. So I have modified the sewing machine so that it makes like a bullet sound. Then you can see broadcast clone. So if it broadcasts clone, if it receives clone, it will just make a clone of itself, wait 0.6 seconds, stop the script to avoid incorrect firing of the bullet. And for the weapon 2, I have taken this from the internet. You can take any gun sound related to your gun. It is completely optional and it's fully your wish. So if it's weapon 2, you press space, it will play this sound and then it will broadcast clone. However, you have a question. Why can't we use start sound? Because the sounds are extremely small. So it doesn't matter if you use play sound or start sound. They do the same operation. Now we have added correct firing, correct sound. What about bullet movement? So whenever the bullet starts as a clone, it gets shown, it goes to the player in case it is somewhere else in the entire project. Then it just sets its direction at once and then forever it just keeps moving 10 steps. And if it touches the edge, then it will delete this clone. But if it touches the warden, changes warden health by -1. So it's decreasing the warden health by -1. Then it hides and then it gets deleted. Now, code for variable control. In the previous slide, when the bullet hits the warden, it actually reduces warden's health. A variable is used for maintaining the warden's health. So as you can see, we have our escapism switch set to 0, weapon set to 0, and our warden health set to 1000. We can set these codes in the player sprite. I would recommend in the player sprite, but you can set it in other sprites too. Now we have our another variable control, that is if the warden's health goes 0. Sometimes when you fire the Reneti and the bullet and the warden's health is as 2, 3 bullets go and then it becomes -1. So you can add this part of code so that even if it goes below 0 or even equal to 0, just broadcast game over. What happens if game over? So if the player is touching the warden, meaning the player is discovered, it switches backdrop to game lost. You can use anything, like you can write game lost or you can say game finished in the game lost sprite, in the game lost backdrop, sorry. And then you can play any sound or special effect. Whereas if the game is won, then you can say that when I receive game over, switch backdrop to game 1 and stop all. Now we will play the game. Also you can use it for for your reference. Now here we have our project. As you can see, we have our introductory messages, our warden health, our escape prison switch, and our player. As you can see, we are not able to move out of our cell. This shows that the cell restriction is working properly. And you can also see the prisoner in cell 2 will be under our control, whereas cell 1, the prisoners in cell 1 and cell 3 are completely optional. Those are your choice. You can add them if you want. Now I can roam around, but what happens if I touch the bed? See, it changes its costume. And now if I press I get this inventory. Now I would like the M4 LMG. So I clicked M4 LMG. I think my costume should change. Oh yeah, it did. Now I can use the space button to shoot. As you can see, the bullet is shooting, making the right sound and going in the correct direction. But does it actually reduce health of the warden? Yes, it does. You can always view the warden health here. And then what happens if you actually shoot the warden completely? It's a tedious process, but I hope you got the time for it. Or you can use the Renati pistol. Okay, looks like we haven't got much time to finish off the Warden. So let's just I'm going to show you what happens if we actually get caught by the Warden.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
So I hope you like the project. Please give me all your likes, and please see this project. This project is shared as the awesome prison escape. All the instructions are there. So thank you, and let's meet again another